I want to acknowledge that when we're talking about success in caregiving, there isn't one roadmap. So I'm giving suggestions in the 7 pillars, but I'm also leaving it open to you for interpretation because every caregiving situation is different and the goals are different and the individuals, including you as a caregiver and your loved one or client, those goals and what the care looks like for that individual is different. And so, if you have some tools that you can draw upon, I will say that it makes it more intuitive to preserve yourself, preserve your, decrease your stress, and improve your well being by considering acquiring effective tools, but that there isn't one way to be successful. So I do want you to know that I acknowledge that, and these are suggestions and things I wish I had known when I started my career as a caregiver. If you go to caregiversupportservices.org or .com, you'll see this, what does success mean when offering care? You'll see this guide that you can download. It has some really good tips and ways to walk you through what success might look like for you. And you might need to make changes depending on the client that you have or your loved one's condition. But it is something that is useful for mapping out what that looks like for the two of you. And then the other guide that I have available is the 7 pillars. Now, in the 7 pillars, it's called Things No One Tells You, because in addition to the 7 pillars in the guide, there's also how to work with a client who's depressed. What are some things you can do if someone is experiencing like social isolation? They're not having an opportunity to be around their friends. What are some things that you can do if you have a client that's angry? How can you work through that? So those are the real. There's a couple of other things, but in that section, but those are some of the highlights that I feel like most of the time we don't talk about how to, number one, let's lay a solid foundation with our pillars. And then how are we going to use what we learned from our pillars to help us through some of these really challenging situations where folks are angry, they're not angry necessarily at you, or maybe they are, and how can you work through that? And then the other part that's in their third section in the 7 pillars is grief. And grief is one of those areas that you might be experiencing grief now. I also think that we don't often give folks who are in the caregiving field, um, who are working in caregiving, an opportunity to just express. And I won't even say that. I think that a lot of times, especially after the pandemic, there's been a lot of grief that folks are just walking around and they're grieving.
Visit www.caregiversupportservices.com to learn more. Caregiver Support Services, where good caregivers become great.